Welcome to War Bios, where we delve into the most pivotal battles in history, and I'm your host, General Biography. Today, we're going to explore one of the most decisive and fascinating conflicts in American military history, the Battle of New Orleans, fought on January 8, 1815. This battle was a culmination of events that would change the course of the War of 1812 and leave an indelible mark on the young United States. The story begins over 2 years prior to the battle, in June 1812, when President James Madison signed a declaration of war against the British Empire. The reasons for this declaration were multifaceted: impressment of American sailors, trade restrictions, and British support for Native American resistance against American expansion. The War of 1812 was not just about these grievances. It was also about asserting American sovereignty and territorial integrity, testing the mettle of a nation still in its formative years. As the war progressed, the United States faced significant challenges on multiple fronts, including the Great Lakes, the Atlantic seaboard, and what is now the Gulf Coast. The British Navy, with its superior firepower and maneuverability, posed a constant threat to American shipping and coastal cities. On land, American forces struggled against both British regulars and Native American tribes allied with the British, leading to a series of setbacks and defeats that questioned the very ability of the United States to wage war effectively. One of the key figures in this narrative is Andrew Jackson, a Tennessee militia commander who would later become one of America's most celebrated generals. In 1813 and 1814, Jackson led successful campaigns against Native American tribes allied with the British, particularly the Creek Nation, securing crucial victories that expanded U.S. control over the Southeast. These campaigns not only showcased Jackson's military prowess, but also his ability to inspire loyalty and devotion in his troops, qualities that would serve him well in the impending battle for New Orleans. Meanwhile, in Europe, the Napoleonic Wars were drawing to a close, with Napoleon's defeat at Leipzig in 1813 marking a significant shift in the balance of power. The British, no longer preoccupied with the European conflict, could now focus their military might on the American conflict, seeking a decisive victory that would force the United States into concessions. This change in strategy was reflected in the appointment of experienced and seasoned commanders like Admiral Sir Alexander Cochrane and General Sir Edward Pakenham to lead the British forces against America. In August 1814, British forces invaded Maryland, defeating American troops at the Battle of Bladensburg and burning down parts of Washington, D.C., including the White House. This humiliating defeat for the Americans led to increased calls for better defense and strategic leadership. The burning of the nation's capital was a stark reminder of the vulnerability of the United States and the need for robust defenses, especially in critical locations like New Orleans. It was against this backdrop that Andrew Jackson was appointed commander of the 7th Military District, which included Louisiana and the critical port city of New Orleans. Jackson's appointment was a turning point in the region's defenses. Recognizing the strategic importance of New Orleans as a major port and commercial center, he set about strengthening its defenses with a sense of urgency and purpose. He worked tirelessly to unite the diverse population of the city, including French, Spanish, African American, and Native American communities, under a common banner against the British threat. Jackson's efforts to fortify New Orleans involved not only military preparations, but also diplomatic maneuvers. He reached out to local leaders, promising them protection and equality in exchange for their loyalty and support. This inclusive approach helped to galvanize the community behind the defense of the city, creating a formidable force that was ready to face the British. In December 1804, a large British fleet, under the command of Admiral Sir Alexander Cochrane and General Sir Edward Pakenham, sailed into the Gulf of Mexico with the intention of capturing New Orleans. The British plan was to ascend the Mississippi River, take control of the city, and split the United States, dealing a severe blow to its economy and territorial integrity. This strategy aimed to exploit the geographic vulnerability of New Orleans, situated as it is near the mouth of the Mississippi, and use it as a lever to exert pressure on the American government. As the British forces approached, Andrew Jackson implemented a series of defensive measures, including the deployment of troops at strategic locations around the city and the preparation of local militia units. He ordered the construction of earthworks and barricades along the most likely avenues of approach, utilizing the natural terrain to his advantage. As the British fleet approached the Gulf Coast, Andrew Jackson's defensive preparations were put to the test, like a master craftsman sharpening his tools for the ultimate showdown. On December 14, 1804, a British reconnaissance force clashed with American troops at the Battle of Lake Borgne, resulting in a decisive American victory that set the tone for the upcoming battle. The sound of cannons and muskets still echoed through the misty Louisiana air as Jackson's men demonstrated their resolve and tactical prowess, like a well-rehearsed orchestra performing a symphony of war. The main British force, however, remained a formidable threat, a juggernaut driven by the ambition of General Sir Edward Pakenham. On January 8, 1815, Pakenham led his troops in a frontal assault against the American lines, which were positioned behind a series of earthen barricades along the Rodriguez Canal. The British artillery bombardment, intended to soften up the American defenses, proved ineffective against the entrenched troops, like a stormy sea crashing against an unyielding shore. As the British infantry advanced, they were cut down by withering volleys of musket fire from the American lines, their red coats stained with the blood of the fallen. The battle raged on for hours, with the British attempting to outflank the Americans but being repeatedly repelled, like a relentless tide crashing against an unbreakable dam. Jackson's defensive strategy, which included the clever use of terrain and the deployment of troops in depth, proved highly effective, a masterpiece of tactical genius that would be studied by military historians for generations to come. Meanwhile, the American forces, comprising regular army troops, militia, pirates, and even African American and Native American units, fought with a ferocity that belied their diverse backgrounds, like a mighty river flowing with a single purpose. As one observer noted, the men were fighting not just for their country, but for their homes, their families, and their very way of life. This sense of purpose and unity would prove decisive in the outcome of the battle. A bond forged in the fire of adversity that would forever change the course of American history. As the day wore on, the British assaults became increasingly disorganized and ineffective, like a wounded beast thrashing about in its death throes. Jackson's troops, buoyed by their successes, began to counterattack, pushing the British back and threatening to encircle them, like a vice tightening around a helpless prey. The momentum of the battle had shifted irreversibly in favor of the Americans, like a turning tide that would sweep the British away. As the British forces retreated in disarray, Andrew Jackson's troops pursued them, inflicting further casualties and hastening their withdrawal from the field. The Battle of New Orleans had been a resounding American victory, one that would have far-reaching consequences for the young nation. On January 8, 1815, the very day of the battle, news of the Treaty of Ghent, signed on December 24, 1814, had not yet reached the United States, and thus the battle was fought without knowledge of the official end of the War of 1812. The American lines, a mix of regular army, militia, and pirate allies, had held firm against the British onslaught. Jackson's defensive strategy, which had so effectively utilized the terrain and the diverse skills of his troops, was hailed as a masterpiece of tactical genius. As news of the battle spread, it sparked widespread celebrations across the United States. The American people, weary from years of conflict, rejoiced at the prospect of peace and the knowledge that their young nation had emerged victorious against a formidable foe. The Battle of New Orleans became an instant symbol of American strength and resilience, a powerful reminder of the country's ability to defend itself against external threats. In the years that followed, the legacy of the Battle of New Orleans continued to grow. Jackson's victory cemented his status as a national hero, paving the way for his eventual rise to the presidency in 1829. The battle also marked a significant milestone in the development of the United States military, as it highlighted the importance of effective defensive strategies and the value of diverse, well-trained troops. As historian John Latimer observed, the Battle of New Orleans was a defining moment in the War of 1812, a conflict that shaped the course of American history and forged the nation's identity as a sovereign power. The Chalmette National Historical Park, which preserves the site of the battlefield, offers a poignant reminder of the sacrifices made by those who fought to defend American freedom. Visitors can walk along the same terrain where Jackson's troops repelled the British invasion and reflect on the significance of this pivotal event in American history. That's all for today's War Bios. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, I'm General Biography reminding you to keep marching toward victory.